Parents outraged over education failures.
We have to do something, you guys. They're not going to make it.
New today, our team continues to press lawmakers for answers and the action they're taking to figure things out. Then a police chase turned deadly crash. You can see a car in the rubble of a collapsed home. Next at 4, we hear the live radio chatter from police leading to this destructive aftermath. A nearly 24-hour manhunt continues. SWAT teams in tactical gear swarming neighborhoods. We're live on the scene with the search efforts that have Cockeysville under lockdown.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
We continue to follow the breaking news. Neighbors in Cockeysville on edge right now, 24 hours after a barricade situation turned into a manhunt. The person police are looking for, 24-year-old David Linthicum. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mary Bubala.
I'm Kai Jackson. Fox 45's Vincent Hill is following that search right now, an intense search that even brought out SWAT teams today. Vincent, what's the latest?
Yeah, Kai, Mary, speaking of SWAT teams, I want to step out of the way and show you this SWAT van that's been parked outside this house all day while police search for a man they say is armed and dangerous, and they're no closer to finding him, sparking fear from nearby residents.
Well, the fact that they closed schools down, this is something serious, kind of scary, because she actually ran in the house last night and told me that her and her friends saw, I guess, a kid running, but it was like out of control running.
A Cockeysville mother sharing her daughter's encounter with who they believe is the man behind the manhunt.
They said it looked like he had on all black and he had like a hoodie on, and one of her friends were like, I think he said something like, did you do something? Like, she said he looked up kind of crazy and he just ran like crazy. Initially,
Baltimore County Police saying David Linthicum fled in black pants and a hoodie after firing shots at police during a standoff on Powers Avenue yesterday. Today, our cameras captured SWAT teams searching empty homes and even a church in the area. Police being vague on the investigation.
We're looking everywhere right now.
But new details about what went on inside that home before shots rang out.
We were escorted by a family member downstairs, and that's where our officer was injured.
What's unclear, did the suspect ditch his clothes?
Through investigative methods, we determined that his clothing description had changed.
And how did he slip past police? One thing is clear as the manhunt continues.
If you don't have a reason to be outside, we would ask that you stay inside your residence.
That's a scary thought for this mother whose daughter may have come face to face with a man on the run.
Where is he at? He could be anywhere, and you don't know the state of mind he's in, so you don't know what he may do, or he might be afraid that somebody's gonna be able to ID up.
Again, Baltimore police do consider him armed and dangerous, but they will not say exactly what he's armed with. They say if you do see the suspect, to call 911. Meanwhile, that officer that was hurt here yesterday at this home is back home recovering. We're live in Cockeysville. Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Thank you. Well, the search forcing multiple Baltimore County schools to shut down for the day. No word yet on whether they will be open tomorrow. You can get the latest information on school closures at foxbaltimore.com.
Well, the home at the beginning of yesterday's manhunt is the same house where Browning's family lived when they were murdered by their own son in 2008. Right now, Nicholas Browning is serving 4 life sentences for murders that happened there. He was arrested in early February of 2008 after police said that he confessed to killing his father, mother, and 2 younger brothers. Browning was an honors student at DeLady High School. He was 15 years old at the time.
Fox 45 News demanding answers today after a state assessment found 23 Baltimore schools have no students proficient in math.
They include elementary, middle, and high schools across Baltimore, and we're hearing from parents.
And our kids are not caught up, but we're passing them. We're passing them, but they can't read.
That is very, very concerning.
Terrible. Horrible.
As a mother of children who go to one of these 23 schools, do you want to hear from the mayor?
No, not really. I don't. Because what is he going to say? What is he going to do? But make a whole bunch of promises that he's not going to fulfill. So I just feel like that's pointless. I need somebody that's going to do something.
Well, we're giving a voice to those parents and students pushing school leaders and lawmakers for accountability.
We're going to begin with Mackenzie Frost. She is pressing leaders for some answers again today. Mackenzie?
Well, Mary and Kai, we're not getting any answers from Mayor Brandon Scott. We sent his office questions earlier today asking who he defends or how he defends these test scores, who he holds accountable, and if there should be a change in leadership within Baltimore City Public Schools. Mayor Brandon Scott's office completely ignoring those questions, and he joins a list of other city leaders who aren't talking about this or simply refusing to talk to us about this problem. But we also talked to some political experts earlier today who say ignoring the problem by city leaders won't solve it.
My colleague sent an email about the 23 schools in the city who have 0 students who are proficient in math.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not talking to any Sinclair affiliate. That's the end of that.
You don't have any concerns about these failing schools?
No, I don't have any interest in talking to anybody from any Sinclair broadcast group affiliate.
Why is that?
I'm not going to talk about it.
I think that political leaders are making a mistake by kind of ignoring this instead of looking at it as a 5-alarm fire.
Now, political analyst John Diddy, you just heard him there, says that really this is also an economic problem for Baltimore City, saying that if students and people in the community aren't educated properly, companies won't come in and bring their business here because he says that they won't be able to hire people who can do the jobs as well. Okay?
Mackenzie, what about City Schools CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises? Have we heard anything from her or conversations about her job performance?
The conversations are there, Kai, and Project Baltimore got a statement from Baltimore City Schools yesterday when they were earlier this week when they were talking about this. This school system says that they do have plans in place to help boost scores and help students succeed in the classroom, including professional development, summer opportunities for learning, and extending learning times at the end of the day. They also issued a statement. Let me read you part of it. They say, quote, "We're confident these instructional strategies will help us regain the momentum and progress we experienced before the pandemic." But there also is obviously conversations about Dr. Sonia Santelises and her job performance leading this school system. John Didi says changing the leader may not be the solution if other parts of the entire system aren't changed as well.
Bringing in someone on a nationwide search or whatever sounds well and good, but the problem is, are you just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic?
I also followed up with Councilman Robert Stokes earlier today. He chairs the Education, Workforce, and Youth Committee within Baltimore City Council. He tells me that hearing that he does plan to call to bring Sonia Santelises and other school leaders before the committee to get some answers about what's going on in the classroom. He says that hearing likely won't take place until at least April. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. Well, the failures inside some city schools was a hot topic this morning on WBAL radio with C4 and Brian Neiman. Part of the discussion centered around Ben Crump joining a lawsuit against city schools.
When it comes to an attorney like Benjamin Crump, who is lauded in the civil rights arena by progressives and everybody else for all the stuff he takes, we just saw him with Tyree Nichols and everything else. When he comes to Baltimore and says that our school system is failing children, why doesn't that get some type of response?
I don't know.
Is Benjamin Crump lying? Is he just showboating? You did support him when he does his other things. Right. What about now?
Maxine Stryker will have an exclusive report with Ben Crump this weekend. You can watch it Sunday after Super Bowl and Fox coverage. And while 23 Baltimore City schools had 0 students proficient in math, the city school CEO, Dr. Sonia Santelises, is being honored for her accomplishments.
In the Sunday edition of the Baltimore Sun, Dr. Santelises was named one of the 25 black Marylanders to watch in 2023. On the front page of the article, Dr. Santelises was praised for her accomplishments over the past 6 years.
The article pointed to a bright spot this fall when federal test scores known as NAEP showed city schools had performed better in several areas compared to the rest of Maryland. For example, 8th grade reading scores held steady from before the pandemic. But the article did not explain that. According to NAEP, Baltimore is now 21 points below the national average for large cities. It is an all-time low for the city since national testing began 13 years ago. Dr. Santelises, who is quoted in the Baltimore Sun article, did not agree to an interview with Project Baltimore when we reported the NAEP scores back in November.
During a family and community forum with the City Board of Commissioners, school commissioners last night, some parents of Edmondson Westside High School students had a different view of Dr. Santelisa's.
I have no confidence in Dr. Santelisa because where is she?
We have a CEO who is in charge of these schools and as well as the school board, and I know complaints have been sent to them and they need to hold themselves accountable.
She needs to go.
Yes. School officials told parents many students are still struggling to catch up from learning loss during the pandemic.
Students suffered during the pandemic, especially in math.
So my question is, what are we doing?
So we invested millions of dollars in tutoring. We've given out devices.
We introduced small group learning.
I represent the Black Church of Baltimore. We're acting right now.
School CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises did not attend the meeting.
This report is just the latest problem within city schools Project Baltimore has reported on. In 2021, the team discovered so-called ghost students in grade changing at Augusta Fell Savage High School, which is one of the 23 schools with 0 students scoring proficient on the state math test. Last summer, Project Baltimore heard from 5 families who say their children with disabilities were forced to miss significant amounts of class, but their report card showed fake grades and attendance. Now, despite those problems, Dr. Santelises' salary is rising. She earns a base salary of more than $300,000 a year. Project Baltimore found with the perks in her contract, it is up to almost $445,000. That brings us to our question of the day. Do you trust Dr. Santelises to lead Baltimore City schools? So far, 96% of voters say no. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote. Click on the Project Baltimore tab to weigh in.
As city public schools struggle, the school system is setting its sights on shutting down a high-performing charter school. It comes amid a history of city charter schools battling to stay open. Tonight, Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor is digging into how easy it is to pull the plug on some charter schools despite student success. Rebecca?
Yeah, Kai, there's no doubt that city charter schools, they're held to a much higher standard than city public schools. Baltimore Collegiate, just the latest charter school to learn that the hard way. Their charter is currently on the verge of being revoked. And because of the city's strict charter renewal process, there's very little they can do or say about it.
Every student in Maryland will know that there are paths to their success and their fulfillment.
Pledging education as a top priority, a defining moment of Governor Wes Moore's Inauguration Day.
You succeeding is going to mean everything to each and every one of us.
Meeting with the young men attending the Baltimore Collegiate School for Boys. Moore taking to Twitter, writing, quote, "I told them there is never a room they don't belong in." A month later, the city threatening to rip those students from their classrooms.
It's just very disappointing. I would hope that we could partner better.
The charter CEO, Edwin Avent, says the school is dedicated to going beyond educating basic curriculum. Students wear coats and ties and are encouraged to pursue a higher level of education in the future.
Shake my hands, make eye contact, smile when you talk to people. These are the soft skills that so many of our boys need to become more successful in life.
But now the school's future rests in the hands of Baltimore City Schools CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises. The charter is one of 11 up for renewal, an effectiveness evaluation finding Baltimore Collegiate the only charter failing in several categories. Failures Avent describes as simple technicalities such as missing paperwork or data entry errors.
They were procedural, operational things that we believe can be and have been addressed.
However, the city's report claiming the charter's teaching practices and staffing levels also fall short. Santelises will make her final renewal recommendation in front of the School Board of Commissioners next Tuesday. Then on Thursday, Baltimore Collegiate will be given just 4 minutes to plead their case. In a statement, Avent writing, quote, "I absolutely don't think that is enough time." And he's not alone.
The incompetency and probably corruption of the Baltimore City Schools leadership is stunning.
Former city councilman and principal of a shuttered city charter, Carl Stokes, questioning why the city is quick to pull the plug on charters when many of the city's public schools are plagued with problems.
Overall, the city schools numbers are horrendous in terms of graduation rates.
In city public schools, just 67% of students graduate, compared to the first 2 graduating classes at Baltimore Collegiate, where Avent says about 95% of students cross the finish line. FOX45 reaching out to the governor's office, questioning, should the city be able to close a charter that's outperforming public schools? And will you step in to keep the doors of this charter open? As of News Time tonight, no response.
Certainly, if we were a district school and it were the same issues, you wouldn't be closing a district school.
And after both the school system and the charter present their cases next week, ultimately it's the board that will have the final vote here. That will happen on February 23rd. Reporting live in Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
And new questions are emerging after a deadly crash and collapse here in Northeast Baltimore. I'm Alexa Ashwell, live on location with the latest on the investigation. Governor Wes Moore says Maryland will lead the way in protecting reproductive rights. More from Annapolis coming up in a live report.
The Baltimore City Council is investigating a deal between the mayor and BGE over the city's conduit system. The lingering questions.
And more clouds today, but even warmer than yesterday, with high temperatures getting to 66 thus far. Temperatures hang near 60. Open the windows, enjoy on the commute home. I'll let you know when there could be some rain in the forecast and when potentially there could be some snow too, and if that's still in the forecast. My Weather Authority forecast.
Fox 45 News, winner of 17 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
We're following some breaking news. A motorcyclist has been killed after crashing into a school bus in Prince George's County. Happened in Clinton. Eyewitnesses say the school bus caught fire after the collision. 3 kids and a driver were on the bus. No one was hurt. The motorcyclist has not been identified. And developing now, new questions are emerging after a deadly crash involving suspects in a stolen car. Investigators say the driver was trying to elude police when he crashed into another car.
The impact sent both vehicles into a building and killed a pedestrian in northeast Baltimore. Alexa Ashwell is live with new information. Alexa.
Kai, Mary, right now we're waiting to learn the identities of those involved and what charges the suspects are likely facing. This is the aftermath of that deadly crash and collapse. We can see the city has since demolished the rest of the building that was hit here. Investigators say this all began when officers spotted a stolen car not far from here and attempted to stop it. We obtained the dispatch audio. Take a listen to portions of it from the responding officers.
It's this vehicle right in front of me. See if you can pin it in. Pin it in. All right, it's taking off in the air. It looks like, I don't know if it's going to be able to get out of here. Just let it go, guys. It's westbound in Sinclair. It's traveling at a high rate of speed. It looks like it's going to go southbound on Wolf and come out north Ave.
Yeah, just hit a car, collapsed building. Building just fell on it, north on Wolf. Get some units, start a couple medics. Hit a civilian vehicle. The building collapsed on it, on both vehicles. Start a couple medics. And
Now, this is video when we first arrived to the scene. You can see both vehicles covered in bricks, the impact causing the building to collapse. Police say a 54-year-old man who was standing on the sidewalk was killed when the car crashed into the building. 5 other people were taken to area hospitals. Investigators say they were in the cars that crashed into the building. Police haven't said how many people were inside of that stolen car. Right now, their conditions are unknown.
And Alexa, have police said what charges the suspects are facing in all of this?
Mary, that is a question that we asked, specifically if these suspects will be facing any charges related to this pedestrian's death. We also asked police if all proper procedures and protocols were followed with the initial spotting of this stolen car. We're still waiting to hear back from the Baltimore Police Department. For now, reporting live in Northeast Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
The death toll from the earthquake that hit Turkey and Syria is now more than 19,000 people. Rescuers continue to search for survivors after Monday's 7.8 magnitude quake and aftershocks. The Turkish government has confirmed more than 16,000 deaths in their country alone. 3,000 people have been reported in Syria. This is an absolute catastrophe.
A small earthquake was recorded last night on Virginia's eastern shore. The U.S. Geological Survey says the small quake was felt in Accomack County. It was about 2.6 magnitude in strength. There are no reports of any damage.
Well, turning our attention to the weather right now, we've been tracking some stray showers all day. For me, that's not the story, Mary. The story is it doesn't look pretty outside, but it actually feels nice out there.
It's fantastic out there. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers here with more. We will take the warmth over the sunshine.
Any day.
You know, yesterday was beautiful, 65 and sun. Today, 66 and clouds.
It's okay.
We'll take
There is a little sun out there. We just saw
a sliver. There's a sliver.
It's a sliver of sun, Kai, just for you.
You blink, you miss it, guys. But hey, you know what? We'll take the mainly dry skies. There is a little bit of something there trying to brighten the clouds now. Toyota Ishida Harbor Skycam, 66. Boy, that is nice for February. 21 degrees above average. Winds out of the south-southeast at 8 and our humidity at 52%. Now you can see the winds out of the south, what they're doing. They've kind of turned southerly once again. Winds out of the south-southeast. It brings cooler air into places like Bel Air as well as Annapolis, right over those waters of the Chesapeake Bay that are in the low 40s right now. So that conduits the air that's over the water up onto the land when you have those southerly winds. So areas just north of the bay, they are coolest, and right around the bay as well. You get a couple of steps away at 66 here in Baltimore, 63 at Columbia, 66 out Frederick Way. And temperatures really all across the state are incredibly mild for this time of year. Near water areas are cooler, but everybody else is well into the 60s. Even Oakland out there right around Deep Creek Lake. Of course, we've got a big ski area there. They're melting a lot of snow today with the temperatures in the mid 60s. West Manheim all the way up to Hanover, PA, down to about Westminster. There are a few light showers, but that is about that on the HD radar as we scan the skies. You take a wider look, there is a weather maker that's associated with some of those sprinkles that's out to our west right now, continuing to plot its way eastbound. You'll notice there's not a whole lot of moisture with the system itself, but on the backside, there's some cold air that's mixing with some leftover moisture there with a little what we call upper air disturbance. That's why it doesn't show up on the surface weather map that we're showing you here. But you see the mixture going all the way to the rain up into portions of Detroit as well as Chicago, and then the warm air that we're in. The question has always been kind of where's that cold that's out to the west, which is eventually going to displace all this extreme warmth we have along the East Coast. Where's that going to go, and where's the precipitation going to go? And taking a look at some of the latest computer models coming in for this, and we'll show you those coming up next half hour. This cold air kind of dumbbells down to the south and then diminishes as it moves northbound. And actually, some of the computer models saying that that little secondary piece of moisture that's forecast to come here over the weekend maybe even misses us totally. So we're not going to hang our hats here on any snow for the weekend. But again, we'll keep our eyes open. Overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, temperatures barely fall. They fall very slowly down into the 40s to near 50. And then tomorrow, another nice and mild day. I think this is a little underdone with temperatures probably nearing 60 degrees once again. We'll be at 48 on Saturday as we head into Sunday. There's that rain potential at 40%. Again, some computer models are now dry with this, but we'll watch it. It lasts into early Monday, and then as we head toward Valentine's Day, temperatures up near 60. Gorgeous. Short sleeves once again.
Jonathan, thank you. Baltimore enters a deal with BGE over the city's conduit system, but some city council members say they have questions about who the deal will benefit. And a prominent figure in 20th century pop music has died. We remember Burt Bacharach. A congresswoman from Minnesota was assaulted inside the elevator of her D.C. apartment building this morning. We are told Angie Craig suffered bruises, but otherwise is physically okay. According to a police report, the attacker was in the lobby of the congresswoman's apartment building acting erratically. He followed her into the elevator, did push-ups, then punched her and grabbed her neck. She was able to escape after throwing her hot coffee on him. The Minnesota congresswoman went to Capitol Hill after the attack. Right now, police are still looking for the man responsible. Well, legendary composer and songwriter Burt Bacharach has died. Even if you don't know his name, you likely know one of his songs. His credits include Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head and Close to You, Say a Little Prayer. There's so many. Bacharach was 94 years old. Well, Wes Moore says as long as he is governor, Maryland will be a safe haven for abortion rights. We have a live report on legislation as it moves through the State House. And one of the city's biggest assets in the middle of controversy tonight at City Hall, where city council members are demanding answers about a new deal involving the underground conduit system.
We're learning more about what the suspected Chinese spy balloon was capable of. I'm Atra Al-Nashar on Capitol Hill with that and why senators say they're frustrated with the military's response.
We're following two big stories inside City Hall. Investigative hearings set to get underway in about 30 minutes. It's about the recent deal between Mayor Scott and BGE over the city's conduit system.
A big decision before the Board of Estimates. Some are fighting an $18 million contract that could go to an out-of-state company.
I know no one wants to talk about city procurement. It is complicated, it is messy, it is not on the front page. But if you want to understand why money is not staying in this city, if you want to understand why money is not supporting black-owned businesses, if you want to understand why black-owned businesses are not becoming prime contractors, why they're not getting the deals themselves, it is because they can't climb out of the basement where they are left.
Thank you for staying with Fox 45. I'm Kai Jackson.
I'm Mary Bubala. We have live team coverage. We're going to begin with Jeff Abel and more on the controversial deal between the mayor and BGE. Jeff?
Well, you know, the mayor signed this agreement with BG&E some 2 days ago, calling it a good deal for the city. But many city council members here today don't seem convinced. In fact, in about 30 minutes, the council will be opening an investigative hearing here at City Hall, examining the mayor's agreement, which gives BG&E broad control over the city's conduit system. That underground system carries electrical and other utility cables, and in November, voters overwhelmingly agreed not to sell the conduit system. On Monday, the mayor insisted his agreement calls for the city to maintain ownership of that system, but today, council members are hoping to dig a little deeper.
So just really trying to, with a fine-tooth comb, understand and know the motivation, what key performance indicators are we utilizing today to determine that this is the right thing for tomorrow.
BGE has increased the rates that all the ratepayers have been paying significantly over the past few years, and yet they're still enjoying low-cost use of our conduit system and benefiting from the city. And so the question here is, what's in it for the taxpayers?
BGE is expected here to testify at this hearing, and so are other companies who currently use the conduit system and are wondering how all of this will be impacting them. We're live at City Hall. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. And while the mayor says the city still owns the conduit system, some are worried about who actually has the power to make changes to it. David Williams from the Taxpayer Protection Alliance joined us to voice his concern over the plan.
And this is critical infrastructure, right? We're talking about electric, gas, broadband. Banks use this, universities use this, and the city is giving up control of this. And this is very troubling because it's like you own a house and you're saying that, okay, we still own the house, but we don't get to make any decisions about the rehabilitation of the house, and people can stay in this house for free. And that's what the city is really doing. Now, BGE will still spend some money and pay some money to the city, but at a very reduced rate in exchange for upgrades.
Williams says under the new agreement, BGE will have the authority to decide when and where the upgrades are made, meaning some parts of the city could see new investment, according to David Williams, while other parts are left behind.
The city's procurement process is under the microscope as well. They're on the verge of awarding a big contract to a business accused of failing to follow city rules. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker is live right now with the very latest on this story. Maxine?
Well, Kai and Mary, we first told you about the issues with this company last week, and the day after our story aired, the city's Board of Estimates, they delayed awarding this $18.5 million contract to Metra Industries, a New Jersey company who has failed to meet the city's procurement rules time and time again. Now, the owners of Economic International Construction Company, being represented pro bono by Thuru Vignarajah, they're accusing Metra Industries of winning lucrative contracts by promising, then failing to hire Baltimore's minority subcontractors. This company says it's lost millions of dollars on this empty promise. Now, Vignarajah says the Minority and Women's Business Opportunity Office has confirmed that Metra Industries has not met its required MBE goals on any of 3 city contracts, with it achieving 0% MBE use on 2 of those contracts.
How do we look at ourselves and say that we're serious about investing in our city if we're looking at companies that violate these rules, that don't meet the goals over and over and over again, year after year, contract after contract, and then award them contracts again?
Now, 2 years ago, Mayor Brandon Scott, at the time he was city council president, he even questioned awarding them money when they were up for a contract at the time, when he had found out that they were not meeting those MBE requirements. Now, Vignarajah is urging the Board of Estimates to deny Metra the contract. They are set to vote on this at their next meeting, which is Wednesday, February 15th. We'll stay on top of this story and bring you any updates as they come. But reporting live for now in Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Maryland's new governor had some strong words of support for abortion rights today as new legislation was introduced to eventually give voters a ballot choice. Brad Bell with our Sinclair sister station in D.C. is live for us right now in Annapolis to explain how the decisions by lawmakers could impact other states. Brad?
Yeah, you know, what we saw today was essentially a political legislative show of force. Now, those who are supporting abortion rights in the legislature said they were spurred to action by the Supreme Court's decision tossing aside Roe versus Wade. They have a plan to do it, and what they showed today was they have the strength to get it passed as well. For abortion rights supporters in the legislature, a show of strength, a joint press conference with Governor Wes Moore crowding the first floor of the State House, declaring their support for a package of bills aimed at protecting the right to an abortion and reproductive liberty.
We're going to make sure that Maryland is a safe haven for abortion rights long after I am governor of this state. That's the importance of today.
At the top of their agenda, a constitutional amendment permanently enshrining the right to an abortion. The bill sending the issue to a referendum on the 2024 ballot for the approval of voters. There are also bills aimed squarely at the 24 states banning or restricting abortion, prohibiting the sharing of medical records or information about women who travel here for care.
What happens in Maryland is going to stay in Maryland.
So we've talked to Republicans. They know that the votes are there to pass this, but their caucus did put out a statement, and they're saying essentially, look, there's no need to do this, that Maryland already has the least restrictive abortion laws in the country. They say it is the law, but there is no need to put it in the Constitution. Mary?
All right, well, Brad, you have explained the constitutional amendment, but what do we know about the rest of the legislative package? Is there more in there that we need to know about?
Yeah, there sure is. Look, so there's 4 bills. At the top of the list is this constitutional amendment, and voters will have a say on that in 2024. But the other bills, now one of them, for instance, mandates that Maryland's institutions of higher learning, colleges and universities, that they have to provide reproductive full-service care on campus or be able to refer students. And the others are aimed at protecting care providers here and patients who come from other states to Maryland seeking abortion care. It essentially puts a lock on those records so that they can't be shared with the other states, so that the people cannot be prosecuted. Mary?
Live look at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. Lawmakers are trying to learn more about that Chinese spy balloon. The House passed a resolution today condemning China for flying the balloon over the United States last week. Military officials briefed lawmakers on the incident. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar reports many lawmakers are critical of how the situation was handled.
All right. A brazen violation of United States sovereignty.
Whoa.
Is Congress's bipartisan consensus of China's suspected use of a spy balloon last week. What the State Department says is just one example of China's broad surveillance fleet that's been flown over 40 countries.
This is going to happen again.
Tense exchanges between senators and military officials Thursday, shortly after news broke that the balloon had the ability to collect communication signals. Waiting to shoot it down over water, the military says, allowed them to gather intelligence, explaining why, even over Alaska, it couldn't be done safely.
Ultimately, it came back to maybe a 20-mile by 20-mile piece of ground. And without being able to clear that, we wouldn't do that in combat, sir. We think before we shoot.
At least before heading into a classified briefing, senators didn't appear convinced.
I get it, but what makes that compelling or not is what information they were able to collect.
Senator John Tester of Montana among those whose home states were flown over by the balloon, and Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska especially frustrated. Has this fractured your confidence in the military's ability to A, assess and B, respond to this type of thing?
I've got obviously a lot more questions that I'm going to hopefully have an opportunity to ask in the closed secure brief and beyond. I've already been briefed once. Right now, I'm not at all satisfied with the actions that were taken.
Republicans placing blame on the president, even though he acted on advice from the Pentagon.
I'm sure they advised him of any number of things. Let's find out what all that advice was.
As for what this means for already strained U.S.-China relations,
have relations now between the U.S. and China taken a big hit, frankly?
No.
Many lawmakers skeptical of that, too. On Capitol Hill, I'm Atra El-Nashar reporting.
Angry. I'm angry, and part of me feel like we failed our students.
Students in one Alabama school stage a walkout over Black history. We'll tell you why. Super Bowl 57, 3 days away, how Arizona is welcoming football fans.
And if you're thinking of doing, yes, some February grilling, it looks like it's going to feel like springtime. Temperatures in the low 60s all the way through about 10 p.m. tonight. should be at 45 for an average high. I'm going to let you know if we're going to have any Super Bowl snow heading our way by Sunday. That's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
History is history, and it's already been made, and it can't be erased.
More than 200 students at an Alabama high school walked out in response to Black History Month. Well, some students were reportedly told to censor their Black History Month program. Megan Scarano with our Sinclair sister station in Alabama reports.
I think this walkout stands on how passionate I am about having this Black History Month program. It's everything to me.
Jemiah Brown organized the walkout at Hillcrest High, and all of these students supported her. She says the demonstration was in response to what the students in charge of putting on the program were told by an administrator.
We were told that we could not talk about slavery in the civil rights movement because one of our administrators felt uncomfortable.
But admitting vital parts of history didn't sit well with the students involved with the Black History Month program.
My protector from 8 a.m. to 3:15, for you to tell me that I can't talk about something that is dealing with my culture is very disturbing, is very confusing.
Why am I being censored about my culture, something that is rooted in me? Why can't I talk about it?
I reached out to Hillcrest High School for more answers about the direction students were given. I was told to contact the Tuscaloosa County school system. They sent us this statement, reading in part, "We are putting together a plan to make sure our students feel heard so that we know the right steps to put in place to ensure all students know that they are valued." Hillcrest High School students reached out to their local NAACP chapter for guidance.
I don't know how you could talk about Black history in this country without talking about slavery or the civil rights movement.
As a leader of the NAACP in your community, how does that make you feel?
Angry. I'm angry.
and part of me feel like we failed our students.
Students tell me they were just recently made aware they can now talk about civil rights and slavery in their program at the end of the month, but that doesn't take away the pain the initial direction caused.
Without our history, we are nothing. Without teaching our youth where we have come from, how can we move forward?
Megan Scarano from our Sinclair sister station reporting from Tuscaloosa, where the NAACP chapter in Tuscaloosa is working to set up a meeting with that school. We are 3 days away from Super Bowl 57. The NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles will take on the AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs. And right now, that celebration is in full swing in Arizona. The Phoenix Convention Center has been transformed into a Super Bowl fun experience. The last time Arizona hosted the Super Bowl was 8 years ago. This week, they're welcoming fans in style.
It's not just a one and done, but make that legacy word not just be a word, but be a tangible action.
Watch Super Bowl 57 this Sunday, February 12th, right here on Fox 45. Coverage starts at 11 a.m. The Super Bowl pregame show begins at 1 p.m. and Super Bowl 57 kicks off at 6:30 p.m. under a dome, so weather's not a factor, Jonathan.
Oh, man. Well, usually Arizona's pretty nice anyway, but around here, not feeling too far off of Arizona. 66. How about that for a February temperature? Winds out of the south-southeast at about 5 to 10, and our humidity's at 52%, that is. Wind chill, nope, there is none. It's too warm. Temperatures all across the board are generally in the 60s, except near the bay. That's the influence of the cooler bay waters here in the 30s and low 40s right now. It's 58 at Bel Air, 56 at Annapolis, but a few steps away from the water. BWI is at 66. We're at 63 at Columbia, 64 at Laurel. Temperatures are all almost statewide, except if you're right along the water's edge, well into the 60s. I mean, even places like Oakland, where it should be snowing, gangbusters, big time this time of year. We're at 64 there, 61 at Cumberland, 63 at Hagerstown, 66 here in Baltimore. Again, right near the water there at Ocean City, we're getting the influence of the cooler Atlantic. It's only 48, but everybody else real warm. Now, on the HD radar, you can see there's a couple of light showers that are up 83, as especially you head right towards the state line, just west of Norrisville, up to Shrewsbury, Loganville. As we zoom farther out, you'll see this is a part of a pretty major storm system, another weather maker that's heading our way from the west. But overall, I don't think the chances of snow that we're talking about over the weekend are quite as great as they looked before, and I'll show you why here in a second. But again, this thing is out there. It is providing that sprinkle chance for today into this evening. Then a cold front swings on through. Not necessarily that much colder right behind it for tomorrow as sunshine tries to return, but then eventually a colder pool of air is going to move toward us. You see the wintry mix that's out there in portions of Nebraska all the way up to eventually Minneapolis, Iowa. And that cold air will continue to move eastbound just following the system. Look where it ends up, somewhere over the southern Appalachians. So thoughts are what's going to happen here is that's probably where any snow with this little secondary development of precipitation we're expecting with a storm system off the Atlantic coast will happen over the weekend. So that means not necessarily for us. So overnight tonight, we clear out gradually. I think it's a mostly cloudy sky into early tomorrow morning. Temperatures settling to right around 50. And look at this for tomorrow afternoon, well into the 50s to near 60 likely once again before that cool down over the weekend. So again, take a look. There's your jackpot spot. Again, our European computer model as well as our GFS. You see the heavy precipitation, the wintry stuff, that's south and west of us. Although some computer models are saying there could be potentially some rain mixed with snow. Tonight, dropping down into the 40s to near 50, mild again tomorrow. Cooler day on Saturday. There's a cold rain on Sunday. At least some computer models say there could even be a couple of wet flakes. Doesn't look like anything major. And then it warms up again next week.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, a manhunt continues in Baltimore County. The latest on what we know about the search for David Linthicum. And is it time for a breakup with your bank? The warning signs you should look out for. Plus, information on making sure you get the most out of your money. High fees, low paid interest on savings accounts, and poor customer service. These are frequent customer complaints about commercial banks these days. Patrice Sanders reports that some critics say it might be time to break up with your bank.
You might not think about shopping around to get the most bang for your buck from your bank, but it might be worth your time. And there are more options than ever, from the traditional brick and mortar branch to credit unions to online only banks.
Each type of bank has its own positives and negatives, so it's important to figure out what's most important to you when you're looking for a bank. You might even find that it makes sense to bank at more than one place at a time.
If in-person customer service is important to you, then a brick and mortar bank is your best bet. But even then, it pays to shop around.
I would recommend that you pay a visit to any bank that you're considering becoming part of to make sure that it has everything you need, that the hours make sense for your life, and that the staffing is really up to snuff.
Looking for the best savings rates? Get online and shop around. Sites like Bankrate.com and NerdWallet can help. And look closely at the fine print.
A supposedly free checking account isn't really a bargain if it hits you with huge fees if you overdraft by a few dollars or something like that.
Changing banks requires some planning. Be sure to open the new account before closing your existing one. If you use direct deposit, be sure to change it to the new account, as well as any automatic bill payments. And lastly, transfer any remaining money and close that old account. When changing banks, Consumer Reports also recommends keeping your old account open until all checks and payments have cleared to keep you from getting hit with any fees. Patrice Sanders, Fox 45 News.
A police chase ends in a deadly crash. The latest on what we know about what led to the incredible scene in Northeast Baltimore.
Demanding answers on failing schools. Fox 45 asking city leaders what's being done to make sure kids get the education they need.
Also ahead, while city schools struggle, an overperforming charter school could be forced to shut down. A former city councilman weighs in on what he's saying is an unfair system.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
We're following breaking news right now in Cockeysville, Baltimore County, where an intense manhunt continues, stretching into a second day. This video taken this morning shows you police SWAT teams combing through Baltimore County looking for 24-year-old David Emery Linthicum. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. The search for Linthicum began last night after police say he escaped during an hours-long barricade.
And during that incident, one officer was hurt. Vincent Hill is live right now with the latest on the manhunt. Vincent?
Yeah, Kai, Mary, besides these two police cars still here in the driveway, Baltimore County Police are not releasing much, as they say this is an ongoing investigation. Meanwhile, I followed the SWAT team as they searched along with helicopters and even a drone in the sky near where the standoff happened yesterday, looking for the man they say shot at that officer. Now that search went from a wooded area behind the home to a church where SWAT staged and searched for several minutes but came out empty-handed. As that search continues at this hour, police are making a plea to the public.
If you don't have a reason to be outside, we would ask that you stay inside your residence where it's safe.
Meanwhile, this woman's daughter says she came face to face with the suspect.
It's kind of scary because she actually ran in the house last night and told me that her and her friend saw, I guess, a kid running, but it was like out of control running.
And Vincent, what do police believe, or the suspect, where do they believe the suspect is now, and what do they believe he's wearing? And did that change?
Yeah, Kai, they still don't know where he is. I know this perimeter has only stretched about a mile from this house. And right now they believe he's wearing a dark short-sleeved shirt and black shorts. Now, yesterday he was described as having a black hooded sweatshirt and black pants, which matches what that young woman told her mother the man that ran past her had on. For now, we're live in Cockyville. Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Vincent, thank you. The search forcing multiple Baltimore County schools to shut down today. No word yet on whether they will open tomorrow. You can get the latest information on school closures at foxbaltimore.com.
In a somewhat strange coincidence, the home at the beginning of yesterday's manhunt is the same house where the Browning family lived when they were murdered by their son in 2008. Right now, Nicholas Browning is serving 4 life sentences for murders that happened there. He was arrested in early February 2008 after police said he confessed to the killing of his mother, father, and 2 younger brothers. Browning was an honor student at Delaney High School. He was 15 years old at the time.
Well, Fox 45 News demanding answers after a state assessment found 23 Baltimore schools have no students proficient in math.
They are elementary, middle, and also high schools across Baltimore. We have team coverage tonight on the failures in city schools, giving a voice to these parents and students while pushing school leaders and lawmakers for accountability.
Our kids are not caught up, but we're passing them. We're passing them, but they can't read.
It's terrible. Horrible.
I think that political leaders are making a mistake by kind of ignoring this instead of looking at it as a 5-alarm fire.
Well, the pleas from families impacted by these struggling schools seem to be falling on deaf ears by many inside of City Hall. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost demands answers from elected leaders and has the latest on those efforts.
2,000 students across Baltimore City public schools aren't able to do math at grade level. Meanwhile, Mayor Brandon Scott and other leaders inside City Hall aren't talking about the problem at all.
Coppin Academy, Reach Partnership, Forest Park. 3 high schools on the list of 23 schools across Baltimore with 0 students who can do math proficiently. It's not just high school students struggling. Park Heights Academy, Johnston Square, elementary schools with struggling students too. Johnston Square is where Nichelle Watkins' son goes to school. Watkins speaking with Fox 45's Project Baltimore.
I feel like they don't care. It's not their children. They don't care.
Her son is in 4th grade and can't read.
How is he supposed to be productive if he can't read?
This one family story highlights the concerns many have as schools continue to struggle to reach benchmarks. The latest test scores from the state indicate kids are falling behind. Fox 45 News sending questions to Mayor Brandon Scott about the 23 schools without students proficient in math, asking, do you believe a change in school leadership is necessary in Baltimore? If not, why not? How do you defend these results? The mayor and his team ignoring those questions.
I think they're ignoring it because they don't have an answer.
Political analyst John Deedy says elected leaders shouldn't brush off these problems because having a community filled with education and math problems could add up to bigger issues for Baltimore as a whole.
Companies aren't going to come to your state or your region to work. They don't want to hire stupid people. They don't want to hire people that aren't proficient in math.
But it's not just the mayor not talking about the achievement gaps.
My colleague sent an email about the 23 schools in the city who have 0 students who are proficient in math.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not talking to any Sinclair affiliate. That's the end of that.
You don't have any concerns about these failing schools?
No, I don't have any interest in talking to anybody from any Sinclair broadcast group affiliate.
Why is that?
I'm not going to talk about it.
Councilman Ryan Dorsey refusing to speak with Fox 45 News about the math scores or respond to our emails with questions.
I am aware of that report.
Councilman Mark Conway telling Fox 45 News the role of the city council is simply oversight.
Should he hold an oversight hearing with the CEO of city schools to talk about these failing kids?
Yeah, I definitely think it's worthwhile. I think it's important for us to understand what's going on.
Sentiment similar to what Councilman Eric Costello told Project Baltimore. Councilman Robert Stokes, chair of the Education, Workforce, and Youth Committee, telling Fox 45 he will call for a hearing to get answers from city schools about the thousands of kids who aren't proficient in math. But that hearing likely won't take place until April. Meanwhile, City Schools operates with a $1.6 billion budget, spending $21,000 per student, cementing City Schools in the top 5 of large school districts nationwide when it comes to spending per student in the classroom. That budget set to increase when $30 billion is given to schools statewide in the next decades, boosting bottom lines. But there's no guarantee the test scores of students will increase as well.
City Schools tells Fox 45 News they are taking steps to improve math scores, including professional development for teachers, extended learning time at the end of the day, and even summer learning opportunities for struggling students. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
While 23 Baltimore City schools had 0 students proficient in math, City School CEO Dr. Sonia Santelises is being honored for her accomplishments. In the Sunday edition of the Baltimore Sun, Dr. Santelises was named one of the 25 Black Marylanders to watch in 2023. The article pointed to a bright spot this fall when federal test scores, known as NAEP, showed city schools had performed better in several areas compared to the rest of Maryland. For example, 8th grade reading scores held steady from before the pandemic. But the article did not explain that, according to NAEP, Baltimore is now 21 points below the national average for large cities. It is an all-time low for the city since national testing began 13 years ago. Dr. Santelises, who was quoted in the Baltimore Sun article, did not agree to an interview with Project Baltimore when we reported the NAEP scores in November.
That brings us to our question of the day. Do you trust Dr. Santelises to lead Baltimore City schools? So far, 96% of voters say no. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote. Click on the Project Baltimore tab to weigh in. And as city schools continue to struggle, the school system is setting its sights on shutting down a high-performing charter. Tonight, Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor digging into how easy some say it is to have the plug pulled on a charter despite student success. Rebecca?
Yeah, Mary, there's no doubt that city charter schools are held to a much higher standard than city public schools. Baltimore Collegiate is just the latest charter school to find that out the hard way. They're currently on the verge of having their charter revoked, and because of the city's strict charter renewal process, there's little they can do or say to stop it. The way the process is set up, the school system will present their findings before the Board of Commissioners next Tuesday. Then on Thursday, Baltimore Collegiate will be given just 4 minutes to defend themselves. The charter CEO telling us that's not nearly enough time to plead their case, and he's not alone. Former city councilman and principal of a shuttered city charter, Carl Stokes, is questioning why the city is quick to pull the plug on charters when so many of the city's public schools are plagued with problems.
Overall, the city schools numbers are horrendous in terms of graduation rates. But at collegiate school, these young men are being disciplined, they're taught respect, they're nurtured. It's a great school and should not even be thought of being put down.
And after both the school system and the charter present their case next week, ultimately it will be up to the board to have a final vote. That will take place on February 23rd. Reporting live in Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. We have new information and new questions tonight after a dramatic and deadly crash involving suspect driving a stolen car. Police say the driver was trying to get away from them when he crashed into another car, and that impact sent both vehicles into a building and killed a pedestrian in northeast Baltimore when the building collapsed. Alexa Ashwell is live right now with new information on this story. Alexa.
Yes, Kai, just within the past 30 minutes, we received responses from the Baltimore Police Department, a spokesperson identifying the pedestrian who was killed here as 54-year-old Alfred Fincher. As for the suspects, we're told 2 people were inside of that stolen car. The driver has been identified as 33-year-old Sean Brunson. He is facing charges in this case. This is the aftermath of last night's crash that led to the building collapse. As you can see, the city has since demolished the rest of the building there. Investigators say this all began when officers spotted a car that had been reported stolen here in the city 2 days ago and attempted to stop it. We obtained that dispatch audio. Take a listen to portions of it from the responding officers.
It's this vehicle right in front of me. See if you can pin it in. Pin it in. All right, it's taking off in the end. It looks like, I don't know if it's going to be able to get out of here. Just let it go, guys. It's westbound on Sinclair. It's traveling at a high rate of speed. It looks like it's going to go southbound on Wolf and come out north ave. Yeah, just hit a car, collapsed building. Building just fell on it north on Wolf. Get some units, start a couple medics. Hit a civilian vehicle. The building collapsed on it, on both vehicles. Start a couple medics. And
This is video we shot when we arrived to the scene. You can see both vehicles covered in those bricks, the impact causing the building to collapse. Police say Alfred Fincher was killed when the suspect's car crashed into another car, sending both into that vacant building he was standing in front of here at the corner of North Avenue in Wolf Street. 5 people from those cars were taken to area hospitals, police say. 2 again in the stolen car, 3 in the victim's car. We're told all have been treated and released from those hospitals.
Have Baltimore police said what charges Brunson is now facing?
Yes, Kai, that is a question I asked. We're told Brunson is facing stolen auto charges. I specifically asked if he would be facing charges related to this pedestrian death. A spokesperson said he would not be charged with murder, but other charges are pending. We'll have the latest on the investigation later tonight and online at foxbaltimore.com. For now, reporting live in Northeast Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
They were terrified for their lives. A couple talking to Fox 45 News about a run-in they said they had with a squeegee kid.
The governor throwing his full support behind a possible change to the state's constitution, what he says needs to happen to protect a woman's right to an abortion. Accusations of bias at the highest levels of the federal government. I'm Christine Frizzell with a look at why some Republicans say it's become weaponized.
And although some extra clouds, temperature-wise, a gorgeous afternoon. Right about 66 thus far for a high. Temperatures stay in the 60s for the rest of the commute home. Open the windows, enjoy it, but I'll let you know what the weekend snow chances look like. You heard me right. That's coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Republicans held their first hearing today for a new committee they say is meant to expose bias at the top federal agencies. National correspondent Christine Frizzau has the latest from D.C.
At the heart of accusations of bias in the federal government, the Department of Justice and the FBI, which one former agent testified has shifted its priorities and become far more politically motivated.
And every day I woke up and I embraced being an FBI special agent until things changed.
Republican members of the committee, named the Select Committee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government, point to widespread investigations into the Trump campaign and Russia, using what they call faulty evidence, and a lack of action on President Joe Biden's son Hunter and his business dealings, though an investigation into that matter is currently underway.
There's too much suspicious activity going on at headquarters that seems to me that ought to be exposed.
Other accusations include unequal applications of justice for January 6th accused rioters and the labeling of some parents who voiced concerns at school board meetings as domestic terrorists. Some sounding alarm bells it's expanded far beyond and has the makings of a surveillance state.
Whether it's the no-fly list or lists of the unvaccinated at the CDC, it seems as though that exceeds the authority that Congress has given to a lot of these agencies, and they've exceeded that authority in a way that really weaponizes their powers against the people.
Democrats expressing outrage at the formation of the committee itself.
Do you think that the federal government has become weaponized?
No, of course not.
So what's the point of this hearing? Why do you think
there is
this
no point to this hearing? It's pure partisan posturing.
A new Washington Post ABC News poll shows most Americans don't find the committee's investigative goals to be legitimate, just 36%, while 56% say it's an attempt to score political points. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzau.
Well, should be at 45 for a high this time of year. We have made it to 66 just last hour. Wow. 62 right now, although we have clouds. The temperature still responding nicely with those winds out of the south and southeast, 5 to 10 miles an hour. Toyota Ishida Harbor Skycam, of course, is looking a little grayer than yesterday, and we expected that. Humidity now at about 60%, and the winds out of the south have dragged in a little bit of extra cloud cover and also some cooler air right along the edges of the Chesapeake Bay. You can see here, again, 58 degrees at Bel Air, 56 at Annapolis, and also at Stevensville. You got to keep in mind the water temperatures here for those folks that did the polar bear plunge a couple of weeks ago. They're only down in the upper 30s and low and mid 40s, so that is going to keep everybody near the bay cooler. Outside of that, though, look at those temperatures well into the low and mid 60s. Are really statewide enjoying some of the warmth until, again, you get down here towards the Atlantic Ocean. Last hour, Ocean City was at 48. Again, the bay temperatures keeping everybody near the bay cooler. But then look at that. Very notable. Oakland. That's out by, if you know, Deep Creek Lake. Usually this time of year, it is like Arctic cold out there, and everybody else may still be warmer, but they're cold. They're at 64 degrees, so the snow is melting right now on the ski slopes of Wisp Ski Resort, unfortunately. Here up toward Lancaster, Pennsylvania, as well as Peaky, we've got a couple of spot sprinkles and a lot of extra cloud cover, all that moving out of the area of northern Maryland earlier on this afternoon, so perhaps a couple of spot sprinkles even through this evening on the windshields. Outside of that, though, the next weather maker can see it out towards the west. It's kind of broken up a bit, but you do see some snow on the back end, and on the back end of that is where the colder air sets up. We're warm ahead of this, and it will stay there as well into tomorrow, but then rain and some wintry mess into portions of the Great Plains and the Midwest. The question has been, where is that cold air that's out to the west going to end up kind of interacting with a system that's going to start spawning off the East Coast and then moving away? For now, though, it looks like that colder air, the biggest pool of it as we head into the weekend, yes, it swings south, which is going to make for a very interesting precipitation pattern, it appears. So overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, these temperatures have a hard time falling, probably down into the mid to upper 40s. And then as we head into tomorrow, a few extra clouds. We'll call it partly to mostly sunny skies, I think, with high temperatures about 60, 61 degrees. Now, both weather computer models kind of take a little southerly edge with this next weather maker heading in Sunday into Monday. We've been talking about it the past several days. European computer model on the left, American computer model on the right. Maybe a spot of snow there on the GFS American. The European computer model puts maybe 12 inches of snow in the southern Appalachians this weekend. So that's where the jackpot should be. Still could have a couple showers Sunday. Warmer again next week.
A couple worried about driving into the city after an alleged altercation with a squeegee kid. The action they want to see from the city on street corners. The governor and state lawmakers getting behind an abortion rights bill, the latest on the push to alter the state's constitution. And the window is closing, but survivors are still being pulled from the rubble tonight. The latest on the devastating earthquake in Turkey and a rescue you don't want to miss. The death toll is now at 20,000, and crews are still working to understand the full scope of the devastation caused by the massive earthquakes in Turkey and Syria earlier this week. Now, 4 days after the initial earthquake, the window to save those trapped under the rubble is quickly closing. Hundreds of thousands of people have been impacted by the nearly magnitude 8 earthquake that destroyed cities in Turkey. And while hope is running out for many, we are still seeing miraculous videos of first responders rescuing those trapped under the rubble. In this video, crews digging out an infant who was trapped in that rubble. The child had been trapped under the fallen building for 68 hours. In the video, a rescuer can be heard overwhelmed with emotion, telling the baby, "Thank God I would die for you." Continuing coverage now. The U.S. says China has targeted more than 40 countries with its suspected high-altitude spy balloons. Officials say the 40 targeted countries are on 5 different continents. The comments from the State Department come after the U.S. shot down a suspected Chinese spy balloon over the Atlantic Ocean last weekend. China's government has denied the balloon was used for spying. The State Department saying the entire world needs to stand together to deal with the threat.
We have made a concerted effort to share information that reinforces the scale of the threats posed by the PRC and the necessity of unity in confronting them. We don't seek another Cold War, but we do ask everyone to play by the same set of rules.
Today, the House of Representatives also voted to formally condemn China for the balloon that flew in U.S. airspace. The resolution passed with overwhelming bipartisan support, with not a single vote against it. The governor and state lawmakers making a promise to put the right for abortion in the state constitution. Why they say it's necessary and the latest pushback they're facing. A hearing happening right now over the mayor's plan for a key piece of city infrastructure. Why city council members feel left in the dark on the future of the conduit system. And he was afraid he would become the next Timothy Reynolds. Hearing from a couple describing the fear they felt during an altercation with a squeegee kid.
Tonight, another couple is coming forward with the story about a frightening confrontation with the squeegee kid.
That's right. The Baltimore couple says when they declined to have their windows washed, the squeegee kid began threatening them and even gestured that he had a gun.
Fox 45's Maxine Stryker spoke with that couple. She joins us live now with their story. Maxine?
Well, Kai and Mary, they tell me that this happened at the end of last year, but it was clear sitting down with them today, they are still very shook up about this incident, and now they're calling for something to change.
I was fearful and terrified.
It was the end of last year when this couple, who doesn't want to be identified, says a trip down Pratt Street in Baltimore took a turn for the worse.
We're sitting at the light. Next thing I know, this guy just plops on the car on my wife's side, on the passenger side, just starts squirting stuff on the car.
Waiting to turn onto President Street, the man says he waved and beeped his horn, asking the squeegee person to stop.
I go to open the door and stand up, tell him, "Sir, could you stop? You know, we don't want the service. Could you stop?" He got really angry. I mean, very angry, and said, So it's going to be like that.
He tells us that's when he got back in the car and things escalated.
He was really, really angry. He was threatening my husband at that point, threatening him to get out of the car.
They say the squeegee man then gestured to them that he was armed.
He's got his hand in his pocket sticking out and saying, get out now, get out now. And she's frantic.
I was thinking about Timothy Reynolds. I said, is this going to be a situation where we are actually shot? I didn't know whether we were going to be shot or killed.
He was gesturing as though he had a firearm. He put it in my face in the window.
That's when they say the light changed.
I immediately took off.
And they left and called police. This couple joins many other people who have come forward to Fox 45 with similar stories. Some assaulted, all left scarred.
People are fearful coming into the city.
Nearly 1 month ago, Baltimore began enforcing a squeegee ban at 6 high-traffic intersections, including President and Pratt. The Squeegee Collaborative also rolled out several initiatives, including an Earn and Learn program that will pay the kids to get off the corners and participate in training programs.
It's against the law. It's illegal. I don't think it's going to work. I think it's paying extortioners to pretty much, keep doing what you're doing, and it's coddling.
This couple says the plan won't work, and it's time city leaders take a more hard approach to the issue that's plagued the city for far too long.
I don't feel safe. I don't at all. Whenever I'm downtown, we're in the car. It's like, who's going to come up and what is going to happen.
So we did reach out to police today asking them how many warnings they have issued to squeegee kids since this plan took effect on January 10th. They just got back to us telling us that they have issued 18 warnings. Tomorrow will be the day that those citations begin. Reporting live in Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Maxine, thank you. Baltimore police are investigating a shooting late last night. Just after 11 o'clock, a 46-year-old man admitted himself to a Baltimore hospital with a gunshot wound. Investigators say that he was shot on Madison Avenue near Wilson Street. The injuries are not life-threatening, but anyone with information should call Baltimore police.
Police also identifying the victim in a deadly shooting earlier this week. 42-year-old Joseph Garrison was found lying in the street on Ridgecroft Road Tuesday. Garrison was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. Police say a suspect is in custody.
There have been 28 homicides in Baltimore this year, down from 42 at this time in 2022. Police also say there have been 51 non-fatal shootings in the city compared to 69 at this time last year. Happening right now, the Baltimore City Council is holding a hearing on the future of the city's conduit system. This week, Mayor Brandon Scott announced a new agreement on the system with BGE. Under the deal, the company will pay a reduced rent for the system's use, but will have to commit more than $130 million towards improvements. BGE will also get what's known as blanketed and expedited permitting for its underground work. Members of the Baltimore City Council, however, are frustrated with the announcement.
So just really trying to, with a fine-tooth comb, understand and know the motivation, what key performance indicators are we utilizing today to determine that this is the right thing for tomorrow.
BGE has increased the rates that all the ratepayers have been paying significantly over the past few years, and yet they're still enjoying low-cost use of our conduit system and benefiting from the city. And so the question here is, what's in it for the taxpayers?
In November, voters passed a charter amendment which bars the city from selling the conduit system. Now, when Fox 45 News pressed Mayor Brandon Scott on whether the new plan violated the will of voters, Mayor Scott said the agreement is not a sale.
And while the mayor says the city still maintains ownership, some are worried if the deal gives BGE too much authority over the system. David Williams from the Taxpayer Protection Alliance joined us to voice his concern with the plan.
And this is critical infrastructure, right? We're talking about electric, gas, broadband. Banks use this, universities use this, and the city is giving up control of this. And this is very troubling because it's like you own a house and you're saying that, okay, we still own the house, but we don't get to make any decisions about the rehabilitation of the house, and people can stay in this house for free. And that's what the city is really doing. Now, BGE will still spend some money and pay some money to the city, but at a very reduced rate in exchange for upgrades.
Williams says under the new agreement, BGE may have the authority to decide when and where upgrades are made, meaning some parts of the city could see new investment while others are left behind.
Today, Governor Wes Moore pushes a new bill that could codify the right to an abortion in the state of Maryland. Brad Bell from our Sinclair sister station in Washington, D.C. has the latest from Annapolis.
Abortion rights supporters in the Maryland General Assembly cheering the arrival of Governor Wes Moore today at a joint press conference. The crowd of legislators and onlookers nearly filling the first floor of the State House, cheering because of the message Moore came to deliver.
As long as I am the governor of Maryland, our state will be a safe haven for abortion rights.
The governor throwing his full support behind a package of bills which will give Marylanders a yes-no vote on a constitutional amendment to permanently enshrine the right to an abortion in the state and protect the safety and privacy of providers and patients.
It is the only way to ensure that the rights of future generations of Marylanders are protected. This is the right thing to do.
The Speaker of the House of Delegates striking a defiant tone. For her, it's Maryland standing up to the 24 states which have banned abortions or where restrictions are likely.
It doesn't matter what Texas, West Virginia, or any other state legislature does. They will never dictate what Maryland does.
While the leadership's support and Moore's pledge virtually guarantee passage, there is opposition.
Someone has to be here to stand up for the unborn.
Speaking for the Republican caucus, Delegate Kathy Shalega arguing Maryland already has the least restrictive abortion laws in the nation.
We don't need to do this, and Maryland will not change one moment, whether it's in the Constitution or not in the Constitution.
If and when the bills pass and the governor signs them, the constitutional amendment will appear on the 2024 ballot, a for or against question that does not use the word abortion, but confirms an individual's right to reproductive liberty. In Annapolis, Brad Bell, Fox 45 News.
Lawmakers in Annapolis also holding a hearing today on a policy meant to keep the state's roads safe. Representatives from AAA spoke with members of the House supporting a bill aimed at cracking down on illegal street racing. If passed, the bill will increase penalties on drivers caught participating in illegal racing and ban exhibition driving on any highway or private property that is used by the public.
We continue our coverage right now on the crisis in Baltimore classrooms. Baltimore City Schools in the spotlight as a Project Baltimore investigation reveals more than 20 schools didn't have a single student proficient in math. It comes as education across the country becomes a key issue for politicians gearing up for a 2024 presidential run. Kayla Gaskins has the story.
American students increasingly struggling to read, write, and do math on grade level. Inner city students among the hardest hit.
How is he supposed to be productive if he can't read?
Nichelle Watkinson's fourth grade son attends one of 23 Baltimore City schools where not a single student tested proficient in math on the state exam.
Who do you hold accountable for that?
Local lawmakers dodging questions from Sinclair station WBFF.
And as some elected officials run from the issue, others are tackling this crisis in the classroom head on.
Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders announcing a new state education plan this week, increasing teacher pay, school choice, and expanding early education.
Here in Arkansas and across America, Republicans are working to end the policy of trapping kids in failing schools and sentencing them to a lifetime of poverty.
In Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis continuing his crusade to rid the public K-12 education system of woke political ideology.
We believe in teaching kids facts and how to think, but we don't believe they should have an agenda imposed on them.
Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri, one of the first to introduce federal legislation to combat the problem with his Parental Bill of Rights in 2021.
They're scared to death
that they don't have any say in their kids' education. It's time to put parents back in control.
Former President Trump even latching on to the gender identity in schools fight as he runs for another term in the White House.
The left-wing gender insanity being pushed on our children is an act of child abuse.
Trump and others echoing Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin's successful campaign playbook and betting that the education issue will be the key to a GOP victory in next year's presidential race. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
An apology from Southwest Airlines, the latest on a federal hearing and the changes that could be coming to customer protections.
The teacher shortage may be getting worse in some areas. I'm Angela Brown in Washington, D.C., what districts are doing from cutting classes to dropping subjects just to get by.
And we're tracking still some very mild air for this time of year, making it into the mid-60s this afternoon. Look, this evening doesn't drop much below 60, at least through after midnight. Now some clouds around. I'm going to let you know how maybe not cool it gets tonight and how long the warmth lasts before a big cool down. My Weather Authority forecast.